We're here to talk about what is this Enneagram of personality thing that we're working with.
Right. And we each have different ideas about exactly what it is and what's important about it. But I think I'll just start talking about what I normally tell people when they ask me, what is the Enneagram? So I see the Enneagram as nine, and this comes from the word. So the word Enneagram, the Greek word for nine is Ennea. So when the Enneagram is basically talking about nine different ways of being in the world. It's a psychological system, it's a personality system. And oftentimes people have this very human instinct to think we are all alike, that we might think the same as someone else, act the same as someone else. But in reality, we are very different from each other. And so the Enneagram to me has just been this great tool to help people understand how they are different. So this is often based on our beliefs that each of these nine different types have different beliefs and views of the world itself. So, for example, as a nine, my belief is the world is quite, um, uh, it's meant for harmony, that it's best if people get along. But the sevens down here, they have a belief about the world that it is a great place to have fun and there are options and there are lots of things I can do in life as an adventurer. But one of the things I want to just get at before I turn this over to you is the idea that our beliefs are an organizing principle. We organize our life around our beliefs. So if we hold a certain belief, then our focus of attention really goes to anything that either supports that belief or something that may challenge that belief, but it's still functioning around that belief. And wherever our belief is, the focus of our attention goes there, and our energy, what we do, what we feel, other things we think about, also are based on these beliefs. So the Enneagram is incredibly accurate about what each of these nine types believe. And so no understanding our thoughts, our feelings, our actions can give people um, much more understanding of not only ourselves psychologically, but it allows us to know that other people are different from us and that it's legitimate difference, not good or bad, just difference.
Well, Elaine, I like what you're saying about beliefs as organizing principles. Within our type, we have these beliefs, and they really just do affect everything we do. It's interesting to see as you go through the work of learning your type. That focus of attention to me is the absolute heart of the Enneagram, understanding that people's attention, any given person has their attention kind of concentrated in a given place. That made the Enneagram come alive for me, to know that ones put their attention on errors and how to fix them. Twos put their attention on people's needs. Sevens put their attention on all the different options in the spread. I put my attention on hazards. That's very different from some of those other types. Um,
Let's do a little thing here just to show people. I'll tell you a little bit about mine. We're going to talk about the exact same thing from your viewpoint and just see what differences show up. How about that?
yeah.
So I'm a nine, and nines have a belief that, like I said earlier, the world is for harmony. People should get along. This is how the world should be. And so, because my focus of attention goes there, I can have tremendous pleasure when I see people cooperating, when I see people getting along. These things can really be things I pay attention to. On the other hand, if there is conflict, which is the absence of harmony, I can feel a clutch in my heart that a lot of other people of different types won't feel because that is not the way their beliefs and actions and thoughts are organized. So for me, harmony, people getting along, or conflict showing up take a good deal of my energy. How about for you?
Wow. That's so interesting. So the yes, so this is a really great example of the differences between us by our types. We can definitely say with certainty that my attention does not go towards harmony. Is there harmony? Are people getting along? Are they not getting along? Certainly is not what absorbs the most of my attention. Most of my attention
Aw.
is it's absorbed with what bad thing is going to happen next, and what could I potentially do to prevent the next bad thing that's going to happen. But we could say that that's sort of a pessimist's paradigm, isn't it? I literally have a hard time believing that harmony is a real thing that actually exists. Um,
And that's
and
so funny to me because harmony is so natural to me to think that's the best way. And for me to hear you say attention to that doesn't even exist, it's like, huh?
yeah, yeah, and it's like to me, this is the Enneagram in its modern form. This is what it's all about: is understanding these exact kinds of differences. I mean, look at that incredibly wide chasm between the focus of attention of a Type 9 on harmony and the focus of attention on Type 6 on worst case scenarios, right? Uh, you know, those are not just different neighborhoods, right? They're different
Yeah,
planets. We live
yes,
on
they
different
are.
planets entirely.
And
Um,
and yet when people look at this diagram, they'll see the line between 9 and 6 and go, what's that? And the Enneagram will help us see. We have lots of people who are nines and lots of people who are sixes, but there are variations between us. And some of those variations have to do with where we go when we're feeling secure, where we go when we are feeling insecure. So I just want people to understand that there's lots of variation in this, even though I might, let me put it this way. If I were in a group with 100 nines, there's going to be a lot of variation between us. But the basic elements, the feeling like harmony is most important, that conflict is to be avoided, that I have trouble making decisions, that I put other people first. Those things are going to always be there because they're basic, but there is also lots of variation.
yes, yeah. You all no two nines the same, but you all share this way that you organize your attention. Yeah.
So let me add a couple of other things because we want to, keep this sort of short. But one of the things that, for me, the Enneagram has been transformational. That it has taken the nine that I was when I was young, and now I am still a nine, will always be a nine, but I am a different version. And I really do consider myself a much more compassionate person to people who are different than I am. And that's one of the things about the Enneagram that I think is just tied up all in what the Enneagram is that it transforms lives and it creates a much more compassionate world because I now know you don't think the same way I do. I now know that somebody who acts this way isn't crazy. They aren't trying to drive me crazy. They just have a totally different outlook.
Wow. Yes. Okay. The ability to not take things personally. The Enneagram offers that in spades. It shows you that people are doing what they're doing based on their own set of beliefs, their own focus of attention. Uh, there you go. They may not be on the same planet as you.
Yes.
They may live in a completely different place. Um, so let's see.
We've been talking about some things that the Enneagram is. I think it's also really important to say what it isn't. And my experience is a lot of people who are new to the Enneagram, they have this worry. Hey, I'm being put in a box. I'm being called a nine or a four or a three. I don't want to be labeled something. That feels uncomfortable. So I do want to talk about this idea of being put in a box because actually, if we don't realize what our beliefs are, if we don't realize the things that trigger us, if we don't realize the things we avoid, which the Enneagram really helps us see, then we're going to keep acting the same way and basically looking through the world from this blinded place, from this box like place, and not even know it. So, how would you? What are your thoughts about people's worries about being put in a box?
Um, Basically, yeah, I like to say that the problem, but just like you're saying, is that you're in a box now. I like to say that the Enneagram gives you some easy schematics, you know? This is kind of maybe what your box looks like. This is where you might get some footholds to kind of maybe climb up out of this box and peer over the edge, you know?
Oh, I
Experience.
like that idea of sort of I'm in this box, but what's out there that's
Yeah,
different than me that actually could become part of my box, or my box could get bigger. I could be a less rigid nine and have a more open life.
yeah, yeah. Taking a little peek into these other ways of being that we might not have even thought of as existing before.
Yes.
Just like harmony, and looking for harmony as a way of being. I never would have thought that that existed before. Now I know it does, you know?
Well, the other thing is, years ago, I heard someone say, and I agree with, you can't solve a problem that you don't know is there. That you have to actually see something as being a problem for you before you can change it. And I think another thing about the Enneagram, what it is it's a map. It's a map of where we are now. It helps us understand what has happened in the past to us, and especially in relationships. But it also offers us a really clear map of where to go from here. So, for example, once I started realizing how much I avoided conflict to kind of keep all this harmony going, that actually avoiding conflict could cause conflict. So, the Enneagram is a wonderful tool to become much more self aware and be able to change ourselves in the areas we want to, while also holding on to all the wonderful things about each type, because the world needs all nine of these types.
Yeah. We can't make it by without any one of them.
Now, have you ever seen anybody use the Enneagram as a weapon? This is another thing we want to be sure people go, it's not this. It is not a weapon to manipulate people.
Yeah. I've seen some people use the Enneagram to make fun of each other, to mostly try to chip away and criticize other
Mhm.
people.
Yes,
And yeah, that's not the intended use here. It's sort of the opposite of the intended use. We're
yes,
looking to find ways to be more compassionate to people who have different ways of being than
yes.
us. So if we're using this to condemn or reprimand how others are being, we're not using the Enneagram to its fullest potential there. Mm-mm.
And one thing I want to say as we close, um, it's really important to understand our own types. It's important to understand everybody else's type. Um, but we can change as fast or as slow as we want. The Enneagram itself offers us a tool to do this. There's no force involved. And some people will kind of take one of our classes and go, oh, this is interesting, and may never use it again. Other people like you and me, we will take more classes, read lots of books, and understand that what I thought when I first read the Enneagram and I saw these characteristics of a type 9, I thought, oh yeah, I do that occasionally. And then it turned out, as I really started to observe myself, I did these things every day. They were endemic in everything I did. And sometimes with sort of a, ooh, I wish I didn't do that. And other times, wow, that's great that I understand that. I love having a tool so that I can grow and become a better version of myself. And to me, that's one of the most important aspects that the Enneagram offers. Any last words from you?
I say it a little differently, but I'm saying the same thing, which is that the Enneagram at its core is a system of discovery.
Mm,
Discovering yourself, discovering others and how they might be in the world, discovering what's real.